burn our ivory, but we hope that every country on the globe will support Kenya in saying never again should we trade ivory.
The trade in ivory must come to an end, and that our elephants must be protected. Kenya is making a statement that for us, ivory is worthless unless it is on our elephants.
Why are they so important? Imagine a planet without elephant. It's really an unimaginable thought. In more recent years, so between, and I talk of Tsavo, 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, were years where poaching was steadily on the rise. And in 2014, it reached very worrying levels. I've been involved in conservation for a few years. I'm Kenyan, born and brought up here. My passion is living actually in the field with wildlife. So the Tsavo Trust is a Kenyan registered not-for-profit company. We're only 4 years old. When the Tsavo Trust started, it was literally on a patch of bush. There was no road in, there was no water, there was no electricity. And so my wife and family and staff, we literally put a peg in the ground, literally a tent, and we started from there. Today, 4 years on, my office is still a corner of the bedroom. Many interested parties and donors often say, hey, we're coming to visit the Tsavo Trust headquarters. And I have to sort of bite my tongue and explain, well, the Tsavo Trust headquarters actually is a hangar, an aeroplane, a few vehicles, a garage, and my personal house.
Have you seen the Tsavo too in the last couple of days? Same place?
Yeah,
okay.
But Jana, we saw many elephants going south towards Dakota because of the rains.
There's been rain down there, is there?
Yeah, just some reason.
I go for a flight and then we can look for one of the big tuskers.
Okay.
And then go there on the ground, so you and your team can actually see what we're talking about when we talk of such iconic.
Right.
You know, in Tsavo there's only 8.
Wow.
On the planet there's probably 20.
The big tuskers.
Of the really big tusk, that's with elephant that have ivory that touches the ground.
This GPS here is just to cover our flight track, and anything that we see, then I take a GPS. This one is just for the aeronautical stuff.
Right.
So we record all illegal activity, all carcasses, all predators, just so that in my daily report I can say it all goes back to KWS, because you're flying over the park, you might as well give every bit of information that, yeah. Clear prop?
Currently, the Tsavo Trust has three main projects, three programs. One is the Big Tusker Project, which is all of our support to Kenya Wildlife Service through aerial reconnaissance, ground research and monitoring teams, and anti-poaching teams. The main beneficiary is those elephant on the ground. They're being regularly monitored. They are being viewed from the air and on the ground. The Tembo 2 team, that's their primary job, is to keep an eye on those tuskers. Monitor these big tuskers on a regular basis. And we started off with 20 hours a month, and then as more funding came in, it went to 30, and now we're on around 60 to 70 hours of flying a month. We've now got 4 ground teams. Some of the positive outcomes of the Big Tusker Project since its inception in 2013 is providing a blanket in the air specific to the big tuskers. So let's just take, for example, Tsavo 2, who has been recorded on the Tsavo Trust Big Tusker database ever since 2013. Since then, he has been seen, on average, once every 5.6 days throughout that entire nearly 4 years. Just that in itself is a security blanket for that elephant. Without the Big Tusker Project in place, who knows how often he would have been seen. He may have been poached, just as his friend Tsavo was poached.
It can now be revealed that poachers have killed one of Kenya's most famous elephants in Tsavo East National Park.
An iconic elephant has been killed by poachers in Tsavo East National Park in Kenya. Tsavo was a staple of the park. At 45 years old, he was one of the world's largest and oldest living elephants.
At least today we found Tsavo 2. We'll go and look for one of the other tuskers tomorrow morning. And maybe if you guys can, if you can just check the southern boundary there along Dakota for any of the other ones, that will help us out a lot. One of the other things I wanted to discuss is we've got a plan with KWS to potentially collar either some of the emerging tuskers or even one or two of the bigger tuskers.
I was extremely overwhelmed and impressed with the passion that not just Richard has, who is expected as the director to have that passion, but also his team of rangers that they sacrifice their homes, they sacrifice their daily lives. They don't get to go to the office 8 to 5 and go home for the rest of the day. They are intent day in, day out. They're out in the bush. They're putting their lives on the line, whether it's a rogue elephant that decides he doesn't like them there, or whether it's the poachers who find him. We have had incidences, we've had stories where these rangers have been attacked by poachers.
Now we're going to where we saw that that elephant, by the way, is called Tsavo 2. Tsavo number 2. The famous Tsavo was poached some time back in 2014, about 10 kilometers from here. This is his, I can't say it's his younger brother, but what I can say is that they used to hang out together. It's as if they were good friends, and so he's called Tsavo number 2. We're going to go right to where we found him from the air this morning. For example, if I don't know if you can see, but you can see now that this was our flight path this morning. Is it you can see it okay? Yeah, so the blue dot there is where we GPS the elephant. So now if we go in, it's going to take us right to that to that elephant. We're heading straight for him now, and he's 5 miles on our nose. We have plans to collar some of the younger ones that are what we call the emerging tuskers. So these are ones that give them another 5 to 10 years of life. They will be the super tuskers of tomorrow. The 16 emerging tuskers, 8 super tuskers, another 2 that are on the border, and then 7 cow tuskers. The gene pool here is very, very vibrant. It's very strong, and I think Tsavo can boast probably the strongest gene pool of elephant that carry big ivory than anywhere on the planet, arguably. You see this, this is a major game path, an elephant path that leads from the browsing and grazing areas inland from Tsavo. So this is heading straight to those trees over there, where it's the only permanent water in many miles around, during the dry season anyway. When we're approaching these elephants, it's important to take into account things like where the prevailing wind is coming from, and in this case today it's coming from this direction. So we would not want to be upwind, because otherwise the elephants can get our smell of humans very quickly and they'll move off. So we'll approach from the downwind side. Okay, they're in a very open area, so they're probably going to see us, and that's why the last bit when we go in, we'll go with this car, this Tembo 2 car, because they actually see this car on a very regular basis. They know the noise of the engine, so they're much more likely to accept this vehicle coming to within close proximity than the other vehicle. In some cases bring them down, others arrows. Most of the time it's arrows.
Okay.
And the problem comes when it's a poison arrow. If it's just a normal arrow without poison on it, then it's not ideal, but it's not so life-threatening. But it depends where the arrow's being put. But normally it's in the rump, as they're chasing the elephant out of their crops.
You know, we have had elephant populations decimated over the decades. Tsavo National Park, I think at one point had hundreds and thousands of them, and we're down to about, you know, less than 20,000 now. So the truth is that there is a possibility that the next generation may only know what an elephant looks like based on pictures. So we have to consider the fact that our elephants are going to disappear if we don't do something about it now.
Elephants are the gardeners of the ecosystem. Tsavo is an ecosystem in itself. The parks cover 22,000 square kilometers. And if the mega herbivore of an elephant was not there, it would get covered in woody vegetation very, very quickly. And so one of the major important reasons for protecting elephant is their efforts in the ecosystem to open it up, which allows landscape for many other herbivores, and with that, many other predators.
Food security is a major problem, and in addition, you know, you add on to that where you may have grown a little bit of food that your entire family is going to depend on, and a hungry elephant comes along and decimates everything. There is going to be frustration, you know, and as a result of that, you find elephants are either, you know, there's poison arrows, or they're killed, or, you know, and it can get pretty vicious.
So we are establishing a release location deep inside the park to mitigate the human-wildlife conflict that could result.
Look at that, it's just
polished now. It's just been polished, and like here's where a tusk is. Actually, that might not be it might be a sharp little tusk, but you see how they're rubbing up it, and this one's a perfect one because it's sort of back height and a bit of a sharp edge to it, so they're
just get a good itch.
Yeah. And then this down here is smaller stuff like warthogs. But they're not strong enough to take off the bark.
Take it off.
But that's definitely, yeah, warthogs and other smaller stuff. And like this one here, you see this one's also nicely worn down, really nice, sandpapered down. Because they're, you know, it is like heavy sandpaper.
Sandpaper, so as you rub against it.
Same on this side here. Yeah, this, you know, for quite a way around, it's the only decent tree, yeah. So yeah, all of this is, I mean, this is serious fertilizer right here. When you've got crop raiding elephant, obviously none of these are crop raiders because the crops are far from here. Yeah. But you can see in their dung, you'll see, you know, maize. Not this one, but if it were yeah. And you see all the vegetation around here is flattened, yeah? Yeah. From
In May 2014, Tsavo Trust found 23 fresh elephant carcasses just in that 1 month. In May 2015, just 1 year later, I think we found a total of 8. And many of those were not poached, they died naturally. Then in May 2016, this year, I think we only found 3. So you can see that there is a very, very significant change in statistics there of elephant mortality. And without a doubt, the President of Kenya has played his part in that. There is political will to make sure that the wildlife authorities and the poachers and the middlemen are brought to book.
In order to bring to an end the mass massacre of elephants, the courts must keep away those who encourage this heinous crime by encouraging the trade. And for that reason, I find that the offense committed is so serious, it is not comparable to the authorities cited. I therefore proceed to pass sentence as follows. The accused person is sentenced to 20 years imprisonment. In addition, he shall pay a fine of 20 million.
You can see the case of Faisal Mohammed, the major kingpin in Mombasa, convicted for 20 years and $200,000 fine. That is a major, major step forward in this fight for the ivory trade, major step forward. And I believe without senior political will, he would probably be walking the streets today. I think the Big Tusker Project is a very, very unique conservation project. Why? Well, there are very few places left on this planet that one can enjoy such an elephant of age, wisdom, but most importantly, an elephant that is still alive today that can carry on his or her genes to future generations. Some years back, there was what they call the Magnificent Seven in Kruger National Park in South Africa. They became very, very significant icons within that country. None of them are alive today. They've all died from natural causes. But here in Tsavo, we have 10. In 1989, when President Moy and Dr. Richard Leakey did the similar thing, it created massive public awareness across the planet, and there was an ivory trade ban. That is what this one earlier this year was gunning for. It reached mostly there, but not quite all there. But the fact is, Kenya has a stance of no ivory. Simple as that. No trade, no ivory, out of the question. And so the statement is there, and that is, to me, absolutely the right and the only way that we can ensure that these elephants will be here for our kids tomorrow. Ivory, without a shadow of doubt, looks so much more majestic on an elephant. When you see a dead elephant and you think its face has been hacked off just to cut out those teeth, those tusks, for what? You know, a 5,000-pound living creature killed just for a couple of teeth, then to carve some trinket or some bracelet or a signature stamp in Japan. It's just, I don't know, to me it's just utterly mindless, because the saddest thing of all is the people that actually buy that piece in some far-off shop somewhere, they wouldn't have a clue how the elephant has died. Wouldn't have a clue.